There was once a time when staying healthy was much simpler. We grew and ate food with care and without chemicals. When we were unwell, we rested, and we derived happiness from the simple pleasures in life. But somewhere along the way, we got tempted away from that simpler life with the promise of more and excitement and fame and so on. Well, what's interesting is we may live longer than our forefathers and foremothers, but we don't necessarily live happier or healthier. But first things first, before I can dive in and explain the 5 simple steps to powerful self, So as I explained in the previous lecture, the first step in powerful self-healing is taking care of your spiritual self. So this might be a little bit discomforting for some of you, but please stick with me on this. It will only last a few moments. Now, once I explain what I'd like you to do, please pause this lecture so you can go and actually do the step. So within the privacy of your own bedroom or perhaps a bathroom, I would actually like you to go and stand in front of a mirror. Ensure the mirror is at least half length of your body. So say maybe waist and up, if not a full length mirror. I would like you to get undressed, completely undressed, nothing on whatsoever. This includes any makeup you may be hiding behind, jewelry, bracelets, and so on. And as you're looking at your reflection, I'd like you to think about, what are you thinking as you look at yourself? Are you smiling? Are you proud? Are you judging? Or are you despising? Can you easily and honestly say to your naked reflection, I love you? Now please pause this lecture, and I'd like you to do this little exercise. Now, thank you so much for doing that little exercise. I realize that for some of you, it might have been very uncomfortable, so I applaud you for actually doing it. Now, thinking about that exercise that you just did you have any negative thoughts while you looked at your naked reflection? And if you did, whether you were judging or trying to make yourself look better in your reflection, I want you to think about why you did that. Why can't you truthfully love and respect your spiritual house that has brought you this far in your life? Well, I think for most people, it's because they think their spiritual house is actually who they truly are, but it's not. Who you really are is that spirit that's living within that spiritual house, that battered, beat up, bruised, tired, and exhausted, but yet loyal spiritual house that you're in. Now, I'd like you to go back into the privacy of your bathroom or bedroom. This time, you don't need to necessarily take off your clothes unless you want to try and do this exercise again. This time, though, I'd like you to step closer to the mirror. And I'd like you to look deep within your eyes. Now, really do look deep within your eyes and think about who's looking back. Now, really think about that question, because who's looking back is the real you. Now, if you'd like to pause this lecture so you can go do that exercise now, please do. Thank you so much for doing that exercise to look deep within your eyes to see who was truly looking back at you. Once you realize that who you truly are, the beautiful soul that you truly are, lives within a spiritual house, it changes everything. I ask if you ever forget or get disconnected from this step of remembering who you truly are and always loving that spiritual part of yourself, that you come back to this step and repeat the process. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is because without loving your spirit, the rest of the steps are quite pointless. Now that we know how important it is to remember to love our spiritual self, this doesn't mean that we discount the spiritual house or our physical selves at all. So, in the next lecture, we're going to talk about taking care of our spiritual house. So as I mentioned in the previous lecture, this particular step is all about feeding your spiritual house or your body. I believe so strongly in this that I've written a few blogs about it as well, and I'll put those links in the actual resources section of this lecture. Now, to highlight my point about nurturing your physical self, I'd like you to think about a few questions. Firstly, do you expect your car to run well if you put the wrong fuel in it? Say you have a gasoline car and you put diesel in it. Would you expect it to run? Do you think that you'd be able to successfully finish a triathlon without any training whatsoever? And do you think that you might be able to recover well from a surgery if you did not rest and take care of your physical self at all afterwards? Now, there might be some exceptions to these questions, but overall, most of us are going to say no. We wouldn't think the car would run on fuel that wasn't meant for it. We wouldn't think we would successfully and safely finish a triathlon if we didn't at least somehow train for it, and that we probably wouldn't heal as well after a surgery if we didn't rest and take care of ourselves. That's all very logical. So let's actually take a look at what we can do to turn those negatives into positives. So let's discuss that first question, fuel. Using the right fuel is actually what's going to make your body run at its optimum. So just like the car, if you put the wrong fuel into your body, how could you possibly expect it to run at its optimum? So if you're not putting the right fuel in your body, you have a very unrealistic expectation for it to perform well for you. So use the right fuel every time you can. Our bodies are designed to ingest clean water and fresh fruits and vegetables. I realize for many people making changes can be difficult, especially when it comes to diet, because it's linked to budget and convenience. However, just remember this step. If you can't actually put the right fuel in your car day after day, you won't possibly think it's going to run well for you, and eventually it might break down. Your spiritual house, your body needs the right fuel day in and day out in order for it to run well and last the length of your existence on this physical planet. Now, if you go to the appropriate section in the book supplied with this course, I actually give you some examples of what the right fuel is for your physical self. I also go into some basic detail about the difference between alkaline and acidic when we're talking about food and keeping your body balanced between the two. So I really encourage you to have a look at that, because remember, you want your physical self or your car to last the distance in your journey. So make sure you always put the right fuel in it. And when we think about the question I asked about training in the triathlon. Now, not all of us are going to need to train like we're going to run a triathlon. However, we must remember that we need to actually keep ourselves physically stimulated and moving. Now, as I asked you in the previous lecture, would you honestly think somebody could complete a triathlon without doing physical damage to themselves, without any training whatsoever? Now, unless you're one of the very few gifted people on this planet who can do extensive physical exertion without hurting themselves, for the rest of us, that answer is going to be no. So you may be eating the right diet, but are you moving your body? And typing on the keyboard doesn't count. We are dynamic creatures. When we surge forward, when we move, when we're in motion, it feels good. So if we stop moving and become stagnant, just like water, we get a bit stale and a little bit icky. Now, I know we live busy lives. After the end of the day, you don't feel like doing push-ups or yoga or going for a run. And by the time the weekend comes around, there's laundry and chores and all these things to do. And you know what? I get that. I sometimes don't feel like it either. But when I stop and think about it, when I think about how tirelessly my body works for me without me even having to think about it, my heart beating, my blood circulating, it healing a cut, doing all the things that I ask it to do that I just think about, like my arm just moving then, right? It just does what I want it to do tirelessly, day in, day out. And despite it being worn out and tired, it's still there for me. And after I think of all of that, I can easily say, gee, I can give this house of mine 15 minutes of love today. So if you can find the time in your day to watch TV, to look at social media, to do the dishes, to take a shower, you have a few minutes to squeeze in for that physical house of yours too. So this third step in powerful self-healing, moving your body, comprises of two things. The first being exercise, the other being stretching. When I say exercise, though, I'm not saying that you need to go off and get a gym membership and spend hours on end there working out every day or every week. On the contrary, I actually don't think you need to exert yourself that rigorously, unless, of course, you want to. I think taking more gentler exercise moves to take care of your spiritual house is probably a little bit more appropriate for what our goal is. Doing something simple like walking around the block, doing some push-ups or sit-ups in your bedroom, or maybe even teaching yourself some basic moves of yoga. Now, a lot of times people don't find the time to do these sort of things, but I myself, when I've had a busy day, oftentimes can find that couple of minutes in between the shower and getting into the bed, or just before going into the shower. So find whatever feels right for you and try and put 1 minute. Start with a small little block of time and then build up from there. Your physical self will thank you greatly by just moving your body that little bit more, pushing yourself that little bit more than you've done in the past. The other thing I mentioned was stretching. I personally love stretching. Stretching is a great way for you to release tension. It's a great way for you to unlock your muscles, to kind of help your body hit the reset button. If anything at all, I recommend you at least stretch every day to keep this physical self of yours limber and ready for the next day. So if you think about your posture for the majority of day, you might want to think about a stretching move that compensates for that posture. So if you're sitting at a computer all day long like this, when you stretch, you're not going to stretch like this. You would want to stretch the other way. And if you're always standing upright all the time, or you're doing a particular type of motion, think about the fact that your body, your physical self, those muscles are always in that position all the time. In order to get the right balance with stretching, you'd want to do the stretching moves, of course, in the opposite direction, if possible and if safe for you. But please remember, always stretch your body to your own standards and not somebody else's. Don't do anything that is extremely painful or that will hurt you. Just go that little stretch beyond what you're used to, just to get your body just that little bit more stretched out of its comfort zone. Now, can you see this isn't as hard as you might have thought? This isn't about radically changing your routine. It's just about inserting small, healthier steps into your existing day. And little bit by little bit, you will feel better and better. Remember, start off small and stay the course. Don't overcommit. Don't try and do half an hour if you don't have half an hour. Start off with 1 minute of exercise, 1 minute of stretching. I think you can find 2 minutes for that beautiful spiritual house of yours that works so tirelessly for you every day. So up to this point, we've covered off step 1, loving your spiritual self. Step 2, providing the right fuel for your physical self. And step 3, moving your body. So what about nurturing your spiritual self? Well, that's what step 4 is all about. Now, the topic of spiritual growth is so vast that I'm not even going to try and cover it off in this lecture. But what I'm going to do for step 4 is instill the basics around taking care of your spiritual self through rest and meditation. If you remember a few lectures back, I asked you if you thought it was realistic for somebody to fully and completely heal from a surgery if they did not rest. And I think you know what the answer is. They wouldn't likely heal fully or as quickly as they could have if they had just rested themselves. And while I know that's a physical example, the metaphorical or spiritual example stands true as well. In today's world, if it looks like you're doing nothing, it is frowned upon by pretty much everybody. It's as if you must fill every single waking moment of yours by doing something outwardly productive. But my dear friend, if you don't consciously stop to rest that frantic mind of yours, you will grow more and more weary over time, because at some point you must get off that hamster wheel to rest and recoup. Of course, I am not condoning laziness, far from it, as a matter of fact. What I am urging you to do is put aside some time where you can actually quiet your mind, meditate, and relax. By doing meditation and rest for your inner self, by quieting your mind, you are giving your spiritual self the nourishment, the rest, and that stretch that it needs. Now, just like the previous lecture where I talked about moving your body, I'm not asking you to commit hours and hours of time each day to do this. Even the smallest gap in that incessant stream of thoughts that you have can revitalize your spirit. Now, if you're new to meditation and resting, now I know that probably sounded a little bit weird, but in all honesty, many people don't actually rest. What they do is they go, 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 and they're so physically tired by the end of the day that they just collapse on the bed. That is not resting. That is sheer exhaustion and desperation. So when I talk about actually resting your spiritual self, I'm talking about conscious resting. Now, just like everything else in this course, we're going to start off very simply. Just by the power of your focus, are we going to rest that spiritual self of yours? So what I'm going to ask you to do next, you can simply overlay what you already do every day. Having a drink of water or taking a sip out of your cup of coffee. The next time you're going to have a sip out of your drink, I'd like you to focus as you pick up your cup how you wrap your fingers around it, and the texture of the cup against your fingers. Focus on that feeling. And then as you raise the cup up to your mouth, focus on how it feels, the weight of the cup. Is it heavy or is it light? And then as you put the cup to your lips, notice how it feels against your lips. Is it a paper cup? Is it a ceramic cup? Is it glass? How does it feel against your lips? And then as you drink, notice the way that the liquid feels in your mouth. Is it warm or cool? Is it creamy? Notice how it swirls around in your mouth and it goes down your throat. Now you drink anyway. So all I'm asking you to do is, instead of unconsciously drinking and putting it down, I'm asking you just to slow up that motion a little bit and think about everything you do to have that sip. You will be amazed at, by focusing in on that simple action of having a sip to drink, will actually stop, slow down, or reduce the amount of incessant thoughts that clutter up that mind of yours. That is the first simple step towards actually resting your mind and heading towards meditation. Now, as you're able to do small moments of time like that more regularly, whether it's drinking something, eating something, brushing your hair, having a shower, you can start expanding that focus into bigger gaps of time, such as when you're laying down to go to sleep, actually thinking about your breath in and your breath out, feeling how your body is against the bed, how it's weighing down, how the sheets feel against your body. And by focusing on those moments, you are breaking the thought stream in your mind and prolonging conscious rest for your mind. The longer that you can do that, you stretch into what we call meditation. And you'll find it's so rewarding and so enriching that you will look for little moments of time in your day. But just like everything else, we must actually find the time. So that's why we start off with focus, and we just overlay the focus on activities that we already do to get ourselves in the habit of taking that next step of nurturing our spiritual self. Now, as you move into this phase of restful awareness, you may end up enjoying doing something like a meditation every day, or joining a meditative group, or perhaps getting CDs where you can listen for longer lengths of time. But the goal for this step is not to become a meditation guru, unless that is something that you would like to do. All it's about is taking that step towards nurturing your spiritual self, and then move on to the final step, which is self-healing. We'll talk about in the next lecture. Whether you're listening to this on the bus or train, lying back in a park, relaxing on your balcony, or you're in the comfort of your own bed in your own home, I'd like you to close your eyes and just listen to my voice for now. Can you identify the main stressor in your day? Perhaps your stressor has something to do with work, friends, or family. Perhaps it's an animal, or maybe it's even a thought, a memory, or an instance that you're afraid might happen in the future. Whatever that stressor is, identify it now. In your mind's eye, see the issue as though it was playing on a TV screen. You know that the issue exists, and you will deal with it once you're in a better place. But for right now, reach out and pick up the remote, and as you press the button, the sound of whatever the stressor is becomes more and more quiet. You cannot hear it anymore. Then suddenly the image of whatever the stress is starts to fade into black and white. Then it becomes more and more faint until you cannot see it anymore. With everything now quiet and still, the TV turned off, can you hear your own breath? Can you hear the out breath, your in breath?
If not, take a few moments to listen closely to yourself breathing. Once you notice the rhythm of your breathing, put your attention to your head and your forehead. If there's any tension, tell yourself to release and relax those muscles. You'll feel the tension drop away from your head, from in between your brow, from your jaw. Now shift your attention to your neck and shoulders. If you feel any tightness or strain, direct your muscles to release all the ropes which are holding you so tightly together. And as you feel those ropes slacken, your muscles release. You feel your shoulders drop slightly, and your head feels light and loose. When you're ready, repeat the following, either out loud if appropriate or just in your mind. I am worthy of relaxation and calm. I am understanding. I am thinking clearly. I am accepting of the right resolution. I am grateful. Lastly, I'd like you to say, I will do the best that I can because that is all that I can do right now. And truly accept that in your heart. Go back to listening to your breathing. I'd like you to pick up that remote control again. Switch on the TV and see how very well you'll be able to handle that stressor now, if it even exists at all anymore. To repeat this meditation as often as you like until that stress is dissolved completely. When you're ready, open your eyes and smile. You're beautiful, my friend. Namaste.
Somewhere along the way, we lost our confidence in our ability to heal ourselves. We now rely so heavily on taking medications for relief, getting surgeries to remove the ickies, and listening to doctors give us grim facts about our situations and what we need to do. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not blacklisting those things. Of course, medications, surgeries, and doctors have a very well-respected and rightful place in our society. What I'm asking you to remember and perhaps rethink is that they aren't always the first port of call that we must go to when we're talking about healing. You were born with everything you needed to heal yourself. And this earth of ours has been able to supply everything that we need in order to supplement that healing. Of course, if you have a broken leg or had some sort of injury, or if you need some particular medication, or if you feel that is right for you, please do not think I am asking you to stop that or to not do that. What I'm asking you to do is, in addition to what we are used to doing in our culture today, is to remember that you have the power to heal as well. So if you have undergone the 4 steps up to this point, loving your spiritual self, fueling your spiritual house with the right fuel, moving your body and exercising, as well as giving your spiritual self, that mind of yours, a break through rest and meditation, this step will actually crown the rest of those steps. If you don't do the first 4 steps, this step can still be helpful, but you'll find that all 5 steps combined together are what make self-healing so powerful. The self-healing step I'd like to give you now, while you're at rest, which is like step 4, is to firstly get in a quiet, comfortable place and close your eyes. Visualize a beautiful, soft white light engulfing your entire being. Now, while you bask in that beautiful light, I'd like you to place your hands on the specific area of concern that you have, or if you have no specific area of concern, perhaps just place them on your heart and affirm what is rightfully yours, which is, I am healthy. I have a perfectly healthy body. I am re-energized. I am revitalized. I am worthy. I accept, and I am grateful for my health. It's always important to end that self-healing session with real gratitude. Now, of course, I believe the more the merrier. So if you have an opportunity for someone else to help you heal or to be a part of your healing efforts, be that a doctor or some other natural healing modality, or perhaps the prayer or the loving intention of others, then of course, if it feels right for you, accept that additional love, accept that additional help towards your health. Now, please do not dismiss the wonderful effects that energy healing, loving intention, the power of focus, meditation can have on your life. I'm not talking about platitudes. This is actually part of who we are. My beliefs are stemmed and supported a lot in scientific fact, and I will put some blog post links to this lecture as well so you can read a little bit about why I say that. But what this is about is remembering that energy healing, the focus, everything I talked about in these 5 steps can bolster your true health and your true happiness so you may live the loving, abundant life that you so deserve. Start at step 1 and progress through each step at your pace as it feels right for you, and you will feel that little bit better as you get used to committing that love to yourself, your spiritual self, and your spiritual house. It will get easier over time, and it will eventually be a part of just the way that you live. Take out of what I have taught you what serves your greatest and highest good, if that is just one component or all of the components. For every moment you feel better, my friend, we all feel better. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this process with you. I truly hope that my book, Powerful Healing in 5 Simple Steps, was insightful and helpful for you.